Hello everybody and welcome to episode 19 of the Wild Eye Diaries. For those of you that saw episode 18, last week's episode, I'm sure you would agree that it was filled with some really good content. As much as 50% of our staff were in Kenya at one point in time, and so as I'm sure you would have noticed, a lot of the focus on last week's episode was around the Kenya operation. First focus being our brand new camp in the Masai Mara on the banks of the Mara River, and then secondly Andrew's updates from Tsavo and Amboseli. So a lot of content coming out of Kenya last week, and some really exciting stuff. So if you haven't seen episode 18, I would urge you to go ahead and check it out. Some really exciting stuff happening with our Kenya and East Africa operations. This week is slightly different. All of the guides are in office, or almost all of them. Gerry is the only one out at the moment, as well as Johan. And I think on Monday was the last time that all of us would be in office at the same time. We sat down and had lunch together, and it's probably the last time that all of us guides will be in office for the next couple of months. We're kind of all going in our separate directions, and a very busy safari season has just kicked off. So a lot of stuff to look forward to, but not much office time over the next couple of months for all of us anyway. So this week is based in the office, and there's going to be a lot of updates from guys that have been on trips recently, as well as updates from guys who have been in the office more regularly than others. But yeah, so this week we hear from Gerry, who sent his submission in on Monday because he headed to Mala Mala Game Reserve for a private guided safari, and he's there at the moment. And all I can say, if you guys have been following Gerry, he's had the most insane, sensational sightings. So Gerry gives us an update, not only of what to expect at Mala Mala, but also what he's been up to over the last couple of months in terms of his travels to Borneo, his recent guerrilla treks, and the week that he spent with myself and Trevor in the brand new camp in the Masai Mara. So that's from Gerry. After Gerry, we hear from both Trevor and Andrew, who kind of have a discussion with each other on how things differ between South Africa and Kenya, particularly the Masai Mara. So Andrew, who's recently returned from Timbavati, and Trevor, of course, who's experienced the Masai Mara for the first time with me, then share their ideas on how they differ from one another in terms of the safari experiences, which is really useful. After that, we have Mike, and Mike's been in the office over the last couple of weeks. He's been really busy holding the fort by himself. Mike's done a couple of private sessions in the office, some Lightroom and some digital photography courses as well. I actually think he's got another one coming up on Saturday, so Mike's been really busy. But his insert this week is coming up. He's been writing a lot of blogs on individual photographs that he's taken on private and scheduled safaris, and so we hear from Mike on exactly how those blogs are going, some of which are already live, some of which are scheduled to go live quite soon. And so it's great to hear from Mike on what's been happening in the office over the last couple of weeks. Johan, unfortunately, due to poor signal in the Masai Mara, couldn't send us the video that he wanted to, but we did hear from him anyway, and he sent us about a minute video update on how the first Masai Mara Experience week went with his guests. By all accounts, a very successful week. And as Johan will tell you, the guests that he had on the week actually booked for a Great Migration Week next year before they even got on the plane to get out of Kenya. So really successful, and well done to Johan and the team for the first successful Masai Mara Experience week in camp. And then last but not least, we hear from Marlon. And Marlon's been editing some videos from a recent private guided safari, also to Mala Mala and Londolozi recently, where he also had some incredible sightings. So looking forward to seeing some of the video editing that's coming from Marlon. And in addition to that, he also chats about why he feels that Wild Eye is the way in terms of booking your safaris, either on a scheduled safari of one of ours or on a private guided basis. So that's pretty much the whole team, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Here it goes.
Hi everybody, so as you're watching this, I'm at Mala Mala Game Reserve hosting a private guided safari, so I had to pre-record this in order to get it to you on Friday. I was sitting thinking about what kind of content, because there's so much on the go and there's so many, I've got tutorials lined up, I've got new vlogs and stuff lined up, so I thought let me just sit down and quickly look back, not an update, but just to look back at the last couple of months, which has taken me, I mean, before I was in South Africa, I did Sabi Sands, I did Masai Mara on a private. And then it started. I did a whole bunch of things. The first one for me was Borneo, which was an amazing trip. And there were so many things that stood out. The scale of the place, the size of how green it is, and there were so many different facets. The canopy walk, for me specifically, was, and I think for everybody on the trip, it was so overwhelming and just so wow that even hardcore wildlife photographers, that whole morning we didn't take a single image of wildlife until afterwards. But just the experience of being so high up in the trees and walking higher and higher, it literally felt like a movie set. It was overwhelming, it was amazing, and it added so much to the whole experience. And that's something I will need, for me personally, to go a bit deeper on, is to find those experiences that really, really go deeper than just the wildlife, because I believe that's where the magic is. Then I'm already ready for that trip for next year. The dates are sorted, so let me know if you have questions. From there, I came home. I think I was home for maybe 4 or 5 days, literally. And then it was time for Svalbard. So this is the 6th or 7th year that I've run this trip, and it still remains one of my favorites each year. It is, I mentioned, overwhelming when it came to Borneo, but there's something about Svalbard. From the moment you fly in, you are transported to a different world. Everything from the kind of sandy, the pebble or rock beaches where we did walrus, to these incredible landscape with snow and reindeer and polar bears. It is literally the stuff that movies are made of. And every year just gets better. This particular year, we had incredible reindeer interactions. They came to 3 of our people, they came literally up close. And one guy had, how do I say this, reindeer snot on the front of his lens. But that was just the tip of the iceberg, excuse the pun. But there was so much more. The polar bear sightings this year was photographically, I think, on a single polar bear, as good as I've ever had. Top 3, top 2 actually. I mean, the only better sighting I've had, both sighting and photographically, was on my very first year, where 2 young male bears stood up and they did the whole fighting thing. But it is unbelievable, and some of my guests have mentioned that it feels like you get taken into like a different world, and you need a couple of days to kind of decompress from the Arctic vibe. It is just absolutely next level. From there, Svalbard, I came home. I had a couple of days home, and then it was off to Uganda, where I hosted gorillas and chimpanzee safaris, tracking. It was the first day for chimps. We tracked about 17 Ks. Next day was better, and then we went to the gorillas. It is so different from everything else because everything revolves around that 1 hour with these animals, but it feels like time both stands still and flies in that time. It is absolutely magnificent. And it's a trip for me that this is the 2nd year now. Next year we'll be doing it again. Dates and stuff are done, permits are sorted, so if you're keen, let me know. But there's something very special about these moments, and it's not for everybody. It can be quite hard tracking, but it is so worth it. I still have to do all the trip reports. I've done a whole bunch of vlogs, so I'll be releasing some of these on the Wild Eye feed not too long from now. So yeah, make sure you stay tuned for that. There's some brilliant visuals from, how many did I do? I did 2 chimpanzee tracks, then we did Queen Elizabeth National Park, and then I did 3 tracks with the first group, 1 day off, 3 tracks. So in 7 days I did 6 tracks. I mean, I'm relatively fit, but this was, my legs felt it. Magical though. So still have to get to all those images. I'm so far behind, it's frightening. But, and then from there, I went straight from Uganda. I flew to Nairobi. I had 1 night in Nairobi, and then I spent 6 nights at our Wild Eye Mara camp, where I kind of helped just oversee the guys where they were doing the photo academy for the Rangers of the Mara Triangle. Alistair and Trev did a hell of a job. Amazing 2 courses, back-to-back groups. What I did during my time there is I recorded a whole bunch of videos. Now, for, I think was it for the last diary insert, I showed you some interviews with the staff, right? So what I did one day is I gave Sammy a GoPro and I said to him, let's go interview the staff. So while I was doing my insert for the diaries last week, Sammy recorded the whole thing, the back of the behind the scenes, walking around, there's some interaction and stuff like that. So that was super fun, and I'll be releasing, I think this is vlog number 18. So if you haven't seen the vlogs, go onto the Wild Eye YouTube channel and go to my playlist. I will be uploading this particular one in due course. It's number 18. There's a whole bunch of stuff to come before then. But this was a hell of a lot of fun. And not just with the interaction with the staff, but kind of just moving around camp and giving you guys kind of a feel of what it looks like. Going to interview Francis, for example, just outside the bar tent. Then walking with Dixon to back of house where we went to look for the chef. Some of them weren't on site, but it was great just to kind of chat to the guys, get them on video. And if you've seen last week's insert, go and check it out. This one here will give you the behind the scenes where, I mean, T-Man and Chi-Man, this guy's just a legend. But you'll see a lot of the behind the scenes. You'll get a slight feel for the camp. Whole bunch more of this kind of stuff coming up. Especially now, I'm back on Monday in the office, and I've got 2 weeks, and then I start my Kenya season as such. Amboseli for a private, and then 2 back-to-back migration weeks, and then I'm off to Canada. So lots of content coming your way. It's been an amazing few months. It's, yes, it just is. It's amazing. So that's all I have for you for this week. I thought I'd just have a quick look back at what I've done. If you've missed any of the content that you've seen here, go and check out the YouTube channel. Go to my playlist, have a look at it. Look at the previous Wild Eye Diaries inserts. And if you have questions, you know where to find me. Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, Gerry van der Walt on all of those platforms. Otherwise, just drop me an email, gerry@wild-ie.co.za, and I'll help where I can. That's it for me. Enjoy the rest of the episode. I will chat to you next time. My name is Gerry. I'm from Wild Eye. Have a good one.
Right, guys, so this week we thought we'd chat a little bit about the differences between East Africa and South Africa. So, I mean, the reason that we thought this would be a good idea is that I've just come back from a trip where we literally went from the Timbavati to Kenya, and we did Amboseli and Tsavo. And then it was your first time up into the Mara.
First time up to the Mara, yeah.
And I mean, you know the South African system, you've worked in the low veld
Yeah.
and in the sands and those areas, and it must have been a massive change for you. What was the first thing that you noticed?
So, yes, it's tough to do a comparison because they're so different. But I think there are some key areas that I think we can chat about and just get stuck into. But I think, it's been a dream of mine to go up to the Mara. You've seen pictures, I've seen documentaries on TV, so you have a general idea of what it's going to be like. But having worked in the low velds, the first thing that you notice is the vegetation and the landscape. Being in the low veld, very dense, whereas as you arrive into the Mara, it's just big open spaces all over. So, I knew that was what it was going to look like, but I mean, to see it in person, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. So completely open areas, very few trees compared to the low veld. And good quality grass, and that, especially in the Mara, that's what draws and supports the volume of wildebeest, is that it's these dense open stands of red oat grass, which is a very palatable, very nutritious grass. If you had a game farm in South Africa with a stand like that, you'd be very happy. And that's why that system can support that.
For sure.
If you think about from a photographic side of things, what is associated with that then? The change in the different habitat types. Open grasslands versus maybe a bit more mixed bush and savanna.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say photographing in the low veld and sands and that is more challenging. It's just very different. You've got to look at your photography in a very different way. In the Mara, I got very caught up with these big open areas, clean skies behind. So I was amazed at driving along. Whenever you come across an animal or even just the landscape, there is a photographic opportunity wherever you look. And I think it is a bit of a challenge having grown up in the low veld area and started my photography there, but it's a very, very nice change. And like I said, I was very impressed with the amount of photographic opportunities.
I think the things that stand out, and you say, there's it's not that the low veld is bad or anything, it's just these are very different systems. In the Mara, you tend to be able to shoot with much greater focal lengths. I mean, a 600 in the Sabi Sands, there's really no need, unless you're going in for something a little bit more intentional and abstract. Number one, because you tend to get a lot closer to the animals because you're venturing off-road, which is restricted in the Mara to a certain extent and in East Africa in general. But you've got these clear backgrounds.
Exactly.
You're not just dealing with that one blade of grass, though, in the Mara. There's plenty of grass. But the clean backgrounds, big open skies, allows you to use longer focal lengths up in there. So that's a big thing from a photographic side.
Absolutely, and I think it's just you've got to change your mindset in terms of the photograph that you're looking for. If you're working in dense areas of the low velds and the Sabi Sands area, you're using that foliage to your advantage to create depth of field. You're seeing what's around your subject where and how you can use that in your photograph to enhance your subject. Whereas in the Mara, it's a similar process, but you don't have that large amount of foliage. You're looking more into how can you use the crystal clear skies. Or one afternoon we had a dark buildup of clouds. So then you're looking, you're driving around specifically looking for something on a bit of a crest that's got that beautiful dark background. So it's just a slight change in mindset.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that comes into mind, it was very noticeable coming from the Timbavati going into the Mara or to Kenya, was you don't go out on night drives.
Yeah.
You're typically in camp as the sun sets and you head out at sunrise.
Yeah.
Whereas in South Africa, we do night drives. So, you head out, your drive in the afternoon continues into the evening, you use spotlights, you're looking for nocturnal creatures. And I know some of the lodges and stuff in the Mara and in Amboseli, they can do a night drive, but it's very different. It's more of a like an exception to the rule, whereas in South Africa it's a norm. It's a night drive is what happens after dark.
Absolutely.
And that, from a photographic side of things, obviously changes the game completely.
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's something that's nice and unique to, well, I mean, I know they do it in Botswana and everything, but to this specific area, if we're comparing it to Kenya and the Mara and Amboseli and things, it is different. What I enjoyed, okay, we didn't do the night drives in the Mara, but you get back to camp as it's getting dark, and it's a different experience because you kind of migrate to the fireplace where you sit and you chat about the day's events. And so, I mean, I really enjoyed that side of it. And in all honesty, I wasn't expecting to do night stuff or anything like that. So with that expectation, it's nice. You get excited on the drive back to camp to get to camp, sit around the fireplace, chat to the Masai guys, hear some stories. So it's very, very different experiences.
I think the other thing is that you're not being shortchanged by not doing a night drive, because in East Africa you tend to spend a lot more time out in the field, whereas in South Africa the lodges are the times are more concentrated. A typical game drive here in South Africa will be anywhere from 3 to 4 hours, depending on the camp. Some of the guys are a lot more flexible, and obviously when we're running a photographic safari, we're more flexible. But in the Mara, I have a bit of a reputation for not even returning to camp for lunch. Johan was saying that they were doing the same sort of thing now. But you're out, you take a packed breakfast, you spend the entire morning out, you're back for lunch maybe, and then again in the afternoon. So it's not that you're not spending that time in the field by not doing a night drive. There's in fact, you probably spend more time in the field in East Africa than you do in South Africa, which is also quite nice. Species, you probably saw a couple of new species, which we don't get in South Africa.
Exactly, yeah. So, I mean, obviously there's lions and leopards and things like that, but things like topi, I'd never seen a topi, and we were driving through and I got so excited for the first one that I saw. I was like, oh, insane, topi, epic, never seen one, like awesome, great, can add it to the list. And then you drive 100 meters and there's another one on a termite mine. So, so some different species, nice to, the whole, when I was guiding it was nice, but the reason why I left it was to firstly grow myself, but then also to experience these different areas and to see new species, to see new landscape. So from that aspect, I was blown away.
And the same sort of thing, we were in Amboseli and then down to Tsavo, and Tsavo is a 2-hour drive from Amboseli, and before you know it, the landscape is completely different. Different species as well. So we saw things like lesser kudu, fringe-eared oryx, bird species, just golden-breasted starlings, black-bellied go-away birds. It's completely different. So both birds and wildlife species vary between the areas. And I think one of the questions, if people are toying with the decision of where do they go, South Africa or East Africa, if you've never been on safari before, then it's about what is it that you want to see. Do you want to see large concentrations of game? Do you want to see diversity of game? Do you want to focus on big cats? Do you want to do night drives? Do you want, you've got to try and dig a little bit deeper, because both offer incredible experiences but are very different to one another.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think the other really big difference is the vehicles. So, I mean, in East Africa, you have two options. The one is a little minivan or a half loaf or a matatu or a taxi, whatever you want to call them. And 4x4 Toyota Land Cruisers with pop tops. Whereas in South Africa, we've got our open game drive vehicles. And that gives you a completely different experience as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, I also, once again, had never experienced the vehicles in the Mara. It's hard to compare them because I think they're both very well suited for the different areas. In the Mara, you're covering a lot more ground, and you tend to be going a little bit faster through those areas. So it's nice to have the shelter of the vehicle. And I think a big advantage was being able to stand up in the vehicle. To stand
Stretch
up,
your
stretch
legs,
the
get
legs.
a
You know,
breeze.
in South Africa, you can't stand up in the vehicle. You know, you advise not to, just because of the danger with the animals and things. Whereas standing up, it gives you a different angle, and especially just to have a look at the vast area, it's nice to stand up. You've got a 360 view. But having said that, if you think of the vehicles in South Africa, yes, they are open, so you know there's a very different feel to safari. You feel like you're kind of out there, and things like birds flying over, you've got a clear view of them. So yeah, two very, very different concepts, but I think very well thought out for the two different areas.
And I think the other thing is, if we come back to how much time you spend out in the field, you know, you go for a full day in a normal game viewer from South Africa out there, you're going to feel it at the end of the day. You know, it's not very comfortable. But again, you know, with the vehicles that we have in the Mara, the cruisers, they usually seat 6, so we take out that middle row of seats. So you've got place to stretch your legs, put your camera gear down. There's a cooler box and snacks. You really are set for the whole day. I think that's also a big thing. And then the final point is the accommodation. Obviously slightly different because you were in our own camp on the banks of the Mara River, but you know, we went from a small 16-bed bush camp in the Timbavati to a probably 100-room hotel in Serena. And so from a location point of view, it was fantastic. But again, a very different feel. Kind of feel and setup. And with that comes experience, but also the structure and the rates. Whereas in South Africa, when people are booking into lodges, it's your park fees, it's your game drives, your activities, it's usually your drinks as well. Whereas in Kenya, like a full board package there refers to your accommodation and meals. If you don't have a local driver and a vehicle, that's an additional cost. Your park fees, additional cost. So when you're comparing these areas, you also need to make sure that you're actually comparing apples with apples, because a full board package in South Africa is very different to what it is in Kenya. Small camps in Kenya, I mean, they exist, but I think you know, that's where we're so fortunate in our Mara camp is, you know, with a maximum of 12 guests in camp rather than, you know, 100 rooms. It changes the experience completely, doesn't it?
Absolutely, it has that, it's got a very special feel to it. It's small, it still has that intimate feel that the lodges in South Africa have. And I think especially up in Kenya, it's a rarity to find something like that. But I mean, like you said, there are a couple of them around. But I really enjoyed the intimate feel, not many people around, and where the camp is situated, you in the middle of nowhere. So it's great.
I think location is always the big thing when it comes to camps, and you know, when we're planning our itineraries, we take that into account. And so where we do use the larger kind of hotel type lodges, it's because in terms of their location and the value for money, it's hard to beat. You know, some of the smaller, more exclusive camps tend to be obviously charged at a premium, but they also tend to be outside of the parks and a little bit further away from the key areas that you actually want to be in. And for photographers, you know, you want to surround yourself with opportunities. Just, you know, some of the sightings that you had just out of the Mara camp, you know.
In terms of around the camp or in general?
Close by camp. I mean, well, at night, you actually commented on what you heard at night as well.
I was amazed. You know, I love the bush sounds. I love going to sleep to the bush sounds. But, you know, lying in bed, at any given moment, you can have hippos in the river right in front making noise, hyenas. We had lions calling every single night. We had leopard calling, I think, 3 nights out of the time that we were there. So yeah, I mean the night sounds, it's great. It really is amazing.
I think that's something that you often lose in larger lodges, South Africa or anywhere. You know, the places which are maybe a bit more established, where you've got an aircon and 4 walls and a door, or a fan, and you go to bed at night and that's it. You don't hear anything. Whereas, especially in the Mara camp, and also where we were in the Timbavati, you know, being open and hearing the sounds at night, it's part of the experience as well.
Right? So I think it was an incredible experience overall. Animals as well, close to camp. We found lions on a couple of occasions, almost right out of camp. So very, very special to have been there, to have experienced it, and
You're back there in a couple of weeks' time, eh?
I head up there 20th of July. So very excited, very keen to get back up there.
And this week you're off to Madikwe on Friday.
Friday off to Madikwe.
So I've still got like a little less than 2 months before I get up to the Mara, and I'm, you know, seeing the stuff that Johan and Trevor and Al and Gerry have been putting out. I can't wait to check out the new camp, to see all the guys again, and just get stuck into our migration season. So hopefully this little chat has given you guys an idea of some of the differences between the two, and you'll see that we haven't kind of gone the route of saying which one is better, because they are completely different. But if you have any questions and are kind of toying with this decision on your own, then let us know. I mean, we've both got experience in these areas now, and we'd be only too happy to help you and kind of find out what it is that you wanting to experience and photograph, and then make recommendations. That's the key thing here, I think, is finding out what the expectations are. What is it that you want to experience? And then based around that, pointing the people in the right direction. Would you agree?
Exactly, Absolutely.
Awesome. I hope you guys have found some value in this. You can drop either Trevor or myself an email with any questions that you might have. We're only too happy to help.
Hello everybody, I hope that this episode of the Wild Eye Diaries has been entertaining. As you can see behind me, a little bit of a different view. No, I'm not on safari yet. I am still in Johannesburg, in and out of office every day, but being busy in office is a good thing. It makes the days fly by. But the view behind me is the view from my house here in Johannesburg. And this little video clip that's going to come up now is the area that I'm currently sitting in and recording the segment for the Wild Eye Diary. It's a little outside area right next to a dam. The big trees you can see are filled with birds every single night and every single morning. And the area right next to my place, and I'm very happy to say this, is the President Ridge Bird Sanctuary, which is a little breakaway right in the middle of Johannesburg. Some afternoons when it's nice and peaceful, nice and quiet, I can come sit out here with a glass of wine, close my eyes, hear the guinea fowls calling right over here, and it seems as if I'm somewhere out in the bush, which is spectacular, and I'm very, very happy and very blessed to be sitting here where I am today. But when I say things in office are great when it's nice and busy, is because aside from all of our Mara prep and all of our other safaris coming up, or my other safaris coming up, getting all the ins and outs ready and set aside for things to run smoothly once we're out in the field, is that I have noticed that I am nearing my 100th blog for Wild Eye, so my 100th Wild Eye blog, which is very exciting, and I'm very, very happy to say this, because I still remember sitting in office way back, writing my very first Wild Eye blog, and it's basically a blog that announced a new chapter for Michael Laupscher. So if you haven't read it yet, go check it out. But basically what I have been doing in office is I'm going to run into a little folder I've made called blogs, and I have set aside edited and sorted images. As you can see here, 100th blog, obviously. My first crossing experience is a blog I'm going to be writing. Luckiest image is a blog I'm currently writing. My favorite image is a blog that is scheduled and will go live early next week. And Fios is a blog that I will be writing about a man that had taught me so much about the bush, respecting the animals out there and everything that obviously happens out in the natural environment. He had taught me a lot about. And then your thoughts of a front row seat. So you might be anxious and wondering what these images are. So let me quickly run into my first crossing. I'm going to flick through these images really quickly. You will see them in a blog, but this are images from my very first Great Migration wildebeest crossing scene ever. So yes, I was freaking out quite a lot. It was so overwhelming. You don't know where to look, what to listen to, what to smell. I mean, there's so much going on. The calls, the water splashing, you're smelling the dust, you're hearing the animals, you're feeling the vibration of the animals' hooves on the ground. It is absolutely insane. That is this picture here. This is the very first picture I took of a Great Migration scene. It's as the first front end of the herd came down to the water's edge to test the waters, that dust creeping in there. It was such an overwhelming scene. And then they started crossing. Shutters were going. I wasn't too phased as to where I was looking, what I was doing. I was just telling my guests, shoot. This was part of the Big Cats and Tusker Safari in July last year. And it was just mind-blowing. It was absolutely insane. The next folder, let's jump in there, is the luckiest image. This is quite simple. And it's just an image of the moon that I photographed. And on this particular night, I only took one photograph. One single photograph of the moon. And only later on did I actually see that during this one photograph, when the shutter fired, a little moth decided to fly past the moon at that very second. And yeah, I was pretty impressed, and I think it's one of my luckiest images to date. Heading into my favorite image, and all of you might think, oh, is it a leopard? Is it a lion? Is it a hunt? What is it? Let's see. Yeah, I bet you none of you guessed a dragonfly. So an extremely simple image of a dragonfly sitting on a blade of grass. You can go read the blog about it, and it's where I explain in more depth why I think it is my favorite image. But yeah, I think the simplicity of this image is what makes it for me. I think it's a very, very great image, and I love it. Heading on to, I'm going to do Fios last because he's awesome. Let's run into your thoughts on a front row seat. This is an image I photographed in Madikwe a bit earlier in this year. So it's a female leopard coming out of a tree, and this leopardess has a young cub, so I think she was pulling down a piece for him to come and feed on, so he doesn't bother her while she fed up in the tree. But how would you have felt sitting in the seat over here, in the seats over here, watching this leopard climb out of a tree, and for that split second as she sits over here, just stare straight into your face, straight into your eyes. I mean, these cats look straight through you. They've got this immense power in their stare. It's unbelievable, and something you can only really understand once you've experienced it. And then lastly, we're going to go into the folder that I have labeled Fios, and looking at this man is an absolute legend. Fios Makanzi. He is the head tracker at Sabi Sabi Private Game Reserve. He's based at Bush Lodge, and I have the privilege of saying that I got to spend many hours out in the field with this man sitting on my bonnet. And in saying this, they aren't just, or a tracker is not just a hood ornament and there to hold a spotlight, as you can see Fios doing over here. Their knowledge and their understanding of animal movements and behavior is immense. If you ever have the privilege of pulling a tracker aside wherever you may be on safari one day and just chatting to him for 20-30 minutes, do so. I promise you, you will be able to pull out incredible stories and walk away with a much greater understanding of how and why things happen the way they happen out there in the field. This particular image was the last image I ever took, or selfie that I took with Fios. It was in my last week at Sabi Sabi. It was in an area in the south of the reserve on Klipspringer Koppies. And yeah, an incredible day that was. Fios enjoying some time with lions, fearless man, sitting out in the front of that vehicle is very different than sitting behind the driver's seat or in the luxurious areas where the guests get to sit in the back of the Land Cruisers. So yeah, it's going to just be a blog that I'm going to write to, obviously, yeah, kind of shout out to Fios Makanzi, a man who I have a massive amount of respect for, a lot of love for, and a lot to say thank you to because of what he has taught me and the way he guided me throughout my guiding career. So that had been keeping me busy in office of late, is sorting those images and just kind of putting them together to get to, and I almost forgot to mention, my 100th blog. So what I am thinking of doing when it gets to my 100th Wild Eye blog is it's just going to be a summary, or not really a summary, but listing 99, so from number 1 starting at the top all the way to number 99, listing all of my blogs with the links available for those of you, or these of you who have not yet read them, can now go and read them, and I would love to hear your feedback. But yeah, a little bit of the week still up ahead. I have some final prep to do before I host a digital photography course here, or not here, but in the office, this coming Saturday. I've got 8 guests joining me. I'm really looking forward to this day, full of fun, and I can assure you that the guests entering the doors are going to leave those doors knowing a lot more than they did before or when they walked in. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the rest of this episode. I'll be hosting next week's episode. I look forward to it, and yeah, I will see you all then. Cheers for now.
Hi guys, so for this week's episode of the Wild Eye Diaries, I'm in our new camp in the Masai Mara, on the banks of the Mara River. I wanted to send a bit of a longer clip, but Wi-Fi has been a bit up and down, so I'm just going to do the short clip for this week. It's been a phenomenal first week of the Masai Mara Experience. Sightings have been amazing, and guests very, very happy. So much so that on their last night, they've booked for next year's Great Migration Safari. So super happy guests. Camp is looking absolutely amazing. And when I get back to South Africa, I will send you guys a longer clip with more updates. But for now, have a good one. I'm here for another week. So I will catch you guys back in the Mara again next week. So enjoy this episode of the Wild Eye Diaries. Catch up with you guys soon. Cheers.
Hi everybody, hope you're enjoying the Wild Eye Diaries episode so far. I'm currently at Londolozi in the Sabi Sands, and just finished a 8-day privately guided safari, and it went very, very well. Overall we had 11 different leopard sightings, numerous lion sightings, lions eating buffalo, leopard eating warthog, two leopards on impala kills, or twice leopards on impala kills. We had a leopard hunting and almost catching an impala. I guess got phenomenal images, and just all in all very good. Look at my friend here pooping. It's Nyala on the lawn. I'm at Vati camp, but incredible experience. We spent every day, spent a packed breakfast, morning out there. We got back at between 11 and 12 in the mornings and into the afternoon. Just phenomenal time out in the bush, 10 hours a day in the Sabi Sands, and it worked out extremely good and in our favor. And just again, not saying that the other companies out there don't offer what we do, but I think we really go the extra mile for our guests. I think we put in the hard work, we put in the time, we make sure that our guests sit up front, we sit in the back, we make sure that we spend as much time out there, we make sure that we get the best photographs during every time of day. There's no such thing as a bad time of day. Photograph is a photograph, it's what you make of it and the creativity you put into it. And I really think that we just work hard and go beyond what we could and should, and I think that makes for a guest experience second to none. I've got another friend up here, a little monkey, and I hope that shines through in the work that we do and in the content that we post and in the just our social environment. Hi, how are you? And I just think I'm pretty sure it does shine through, and I hope it does. But you can be and rest assured that my Nyala's running away. But rest assured that we go the extra mile, and every guest is special. Every guest gets the best treatment possible. So on that note, enjoy this entry of mine. I just wanted to share a few more thoughts with you on why I believe Wild Eye is the best company out there. They really think that we're growing from strength to strength, and there's nobody else out there that can do what we do or do it better. And I mean that. If you've traveled with us, you'll know that. Even he knows it. Yeah. Guys, my name's Marlon. enjoy this episode with us, and look forward to sharing more with you next week. Bye-bye.
Alright everybody, there you have it. That's it for episode 19 of the Wild Eye Diaries. I certainly hope that you've enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed putting all the content together and getting all the information from the rest of the team. And like I said, if you've missed any episodes before, the link will be available for you to go and check those out, particularly episode 18 from last week, which I found really, really exciting. And like I mentioned in the beginning as well, the guys are going to be really busy over the next coming months. If you just look at some of the destinations, there's Botswana, there's the Timbavati, there's Kruger National Park, there's Madikwe, there's Amboseli, and of course the season really now starts to kick off at our Masai Mara camp. So between Kenya, Botswana and South Africa, there's really quite a lot going on, or Zambia's in there as well. So 4 or 5 different countries across multiple destinations over the next 4 to 5 months. So the team is really, really busy, but this is the best time to follow along and see what we get up to. So once again, thanks for following. Thanks for all your engagement on a personal level and on the team level. We always really appreciate it, so thank you very much. Once again, thanks for watching. This is it for episode 19, and we look forward to catching up with you wherever we are in the world, or in Africa at least, next week. Cheers for now.